Hello BookTube, Sarah here and welcome to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with my March 2019 wrap-up and stats. So I'm trying something a little bit different this month. Trying to maybe condense the wrap-up videos just a little bit, because the truth of the matter is that I do talk about every single book that I read over the course of the month as I read it. Either, in March I was doing vlogs for the first half of the month, and then for the second half of the month, I've now been doing my weekly wrap-ups, which I'm really enjoying. So I do talk in depth about all the books that I read. So for me to sit here and kind of do it again, it's a little repetitive. Do you know what I mean? So what I was thinking is maybe more to make this like a highlight of the month. Not necessarily a true wrap-up, but here's all the books that I read, but to do more of a highlight kind of a video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all my stats, because I do love doing that. You guys know that. And then what I'm going to do is highlight my top 5 books of the month. So the books that I thought were the ones that maybe you guys should check out because they were my favorite books that I read over the course of the month. In future, it didn't happen this month, but maybe in future, if I end up reading a book that is truly bad, or, one that I really didn't like, I might put it in as a worst of the month, just for fun. I didn't have one this month. Everything I read, like the majority of what I read, tended to fall in that middle spectrum of it was enjoyable, I liked it, didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. So I didn't have a quote-unquote worst of the month book. But that might not necessarily be every month, like there might be some months that I do and some months that I don't. Now, in March, I did have a DNF, but I'm not really going to talk about that because it's not a book that I finished. So yeah, but then at the end of the video, what I plan on doing is, if you guys watch my weekly reads or my vlogs, you know that at the end of those videos, when I'm done, I do a little like montage, if you will, of these little graphics, because I love creating things on my computer, of these little graphics that I do for each book that I read individually with their star rating. So I will put those at the very end of the video in order of the books that I read. So you guys can kind of see a little clip of all the books that I read. Now, going forward, it won't work really for March because like I said, I was doing the vlogs for the first half and I was doing the weekly reads for the second half. But what I can do, like at the end of, like for April's wrap up, is I can go through those videos and pick out the individual like timestamps and give a definitive list of all the books that I read in April, along with the timestamp to that video where I talk about that book specifically. So that's a thought going forward. So this is kind of like the beta test, if you will. And then in April will be the more full test of how this wrap-up would actually work. So I hope that you guys like it. Please let me know in the description box or in the comment section below. Would you prefer me just to go back to doing my mid-month and then month-end wrap-ups? Because I do read a lot of books every month. But like I said, I do talk about all of them in my weekly reads. So I thought at least this way I can, kind of talk a little bit more about some of the challenges that I did and things like that, because I am going to mention that in here as well. I don't actually have it written down, but I do know, like off the top of my head, how many and how I'm doing on the challenges and stuff like that. So, that might not be perfect, but I figure I'll incorporate that more as the time goes on. So yes, so let's jump in and get started. And I did kind of get this idea a lot. I mean, I'm borrowing a lot. I love Steph's videos. Stephanie at her, I think it's her Romance Book Talk is her channel. I'll leave it linked in the description box below. But she kind of does the weekly wrap-ups, which I love watching. And, she kind of does her wrap-ups this way too. So Steph, I do hope you appreciate this. What is that saying? Flattery or borrowing is the best form of flattery or something like that. I don't know how that saying goes. But yeah, I do kind of love this idea because like her, I also read a lot of books, right? So anyway, let's get into my stats for the month. Speaking of reading a lot of books, in March, I read 33 books. That is by far, I think, one of the highest months I've had in years. I mean, I was blown away when I saw that I read 33 books in March. I couldn't believe it. I am 16 books ahead of schedule for my Goodreads goal. I'm at 30% of my Goodreads goal completed already. I really think if I continue at this pace, I'm going to by far surpass the 300 book mark that I gave myself as a goal this year. So that's awesome. But I'm also giving myself some wiggle room that if if I, I have a bad month, I've got kind of, some books in the bank, if you will. So I had no 5-star reads this month, you guys, in March. So I had one 4.5-star book, but then I had 13 4-star books, 13 3.5-star books, and 6 3-star books. So this is what I'm saying. My books were pretty much average. I mean, some of them were above average. 4 stars is above average, but the bulk of them were 3.5 to 3-star books. So I mean, they were enjoyable, but nothing blew me out of the water kind of an idea. I read 11 contemporary romance novels, no surprise there. I read 7 cozy mysteries, which is awesome because it was March Mystery Madness. As an event, I did participate in March Mystery Madness, not to the full extent I wanted to. I'm really disappointed in myself. March was a bad month for me, for video-wise. You guys know that. I did not get up nearly the number of videos that I wanted to get up, and, I was dealing with some personal stuff, and things like that, and I am nothing bad. I mentioned what it was in my weekly reads that my dad was diagnosed with cancer at the end of February, and he has been given a very positive diagnosis, like as positive as it possibly can be with that. He's been going through like chemo type treatment, and he's having surgery at the end of April. But it's stage 1, so it's if you're going to get it, that's the kind that you want. And it's bladder and kidney, which they say is a very, very common form of cancer, but regardless. So even though I know he's going to be okay, I am still a worrier by nature, so that has kind of been weighing on me, and my weekends I've kind of really just been kind of hankering down and just spending time with family and stuff like that. So, so March was not the best month for me, so I do apologize. But I'm hoping, and I said this to Elizabeth, that she will ask me to be another host again next year, because I really do enjoy it and I want to participate more, and I'm sorry. But yes, I did read 7 books, 7 cozy mysteries for March Mystery Madness. I read 4 middle grade fiction books. Those were all Babysitters Club books, I believe. I read 2 chick lit novels. I read 2 paranormal romance novels, 2 romantic suspense. Again, that fed also into the March Mystery Madness. I read 2 classics, you guys. I don't think I've ever read that many classics in an entire month. I don't think I read 2 classics over the last 2 years. But yes, this year in March, I read both Jane Eyre and Pride and Prejudice. Are you proud of me? I'm proud of me. I read 1 historical fiction novel. I read 1 historical romance novel. And I read 1 inspirational romantic suspense. Again, that was also for March Mystery Madness. So 1 of each, because I like mentioning the different Harlequin books that I read, the Harlequin imprints that I read every month. So I read 1 of each of these imprints, the Harlequin Historical, the Harlequin Intrigue, Harlequin Romance, Harlequin Temptation, a love-inspired suspense, and a silhouette romance novel. So I read 29 books that were geared towards adult readers. I read 3 books. That can't be right. That middle grade fiction must be wrong. Yeah, I read 29, 30, 31, 30. Yeah, no, maybe. Sorry, my math is off somewhere in here. I'm not going to try and figure it out right now. I read 4 middle grade books and 1 new adult novel. I read 2 books published before the 1920s. Those would have been Jane Eyre, of course, and Pride and Prejudice. I read 8 books published in the 1980s. Those were, of course, my Babysitters Club books and the books that I was reading for my 40 Years of Harlequin project. I read 1 book published in the 1990s, 4 books published in the 2000s. I read 1 book published in 2010, 1 published in 2011, 1 published in 2012, 2 published in 2013, 1 in 2014, 1 published in 2015, 1 in 2017, 3 published in 2018, and 7 books published in 2019. So yay. Those, of course, the ones published in 2019 would be mostly NetGalley books. I read 16 books on audio, 13 books in ebook format, and 4 paperback novels. Again, those would be my 4 Years of Harlequin books. All 33 books that I read this month were full-length novels. Out of all the books I read, 23 of them were part of a series, and 10 of them were standalone novels. So of those 23 that were part of a series, 7 were new series that I started, and 16 were part of ongoing series that I was already reading. I read a grand total of 9,833 pages, averaging 317 pages a day. It was a big month for me reading-wise, a huge month for me reading-wise. So, like I said, challenges and events and things like that. So, of course, as I already mentioned, I participated in March Mystery Madness, so that was a lot of fun. For my Stacking the Series challenge, I am behind 2 books because even though I read 33 books this month, there were 2 books that I had to put to the side that I had planned on reading, but I just was not going to get to them. So, because I had a lot of NetGalley books, that was part of, you know, the massive amount of reading that I did, was a lot of them were NetGalley books, and those actually do trump a lot of other things because the publisher is nice enough to send them to me to review that I want to make sure that I do get to them. So, you know, that kind of worked for that. So I think I have read in total now 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I think I've read 15 books for my Stacking the Series challenge out of 66. So I'm not doing badly. I mean, it's only the end of March. Like, it's only the beginning of April. I still have lots and lots of time. I've got like 9 more whole months. I'm not too concerned about it. And yeah, so, and I'm also trying to stay off of NetGalley. As much as I love reading arcs and stuff like that, I'm like, I know my limitations and I know how much I can read and you know, what is a comfortable amount for me. And not that this month was an uncomfortable amount, but I think because I also had a lot of downtime. And like I said, I was kind of cocooning in, you know, and doing those things and just kind of relaxing and taking it easy this month, that allowed me to get a lot more reading done. When on a normal basis, I'm usually a lot more busy, you know, with, you know, doing things. And I've got events coming up over the next few months, like going to see friends and traveling and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm really trying to keep it around 4 or 5 books. That's a good amount of NetGalley books for me to read. So that's my goal. For my, what do you call it? The Romance-opoly, which is one of the other challenges I'm doing. Excuse me for reaching. Let me grab this over here. Oh, I just woke up the cat. Now he's going to be perturbed. So for my, my Romance-opoly that I am also participating in, I have completed, I'm just looking at I've got my little handy dandy board right here. So I completed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've completed 7 of these, excuse me, the spots. And I also did the photograph for the, what is it called? The beanies, which is a challenge that they have. There's 4 of them in the year, and you've got 3 months, so that it's every 3 months, and you have to post a photograph. And this month's for January, February, and March was to post a photograph of your bookshelves. So I did that on Instagram. So I did complete that one too. So I'm not doing too badly. I'll have better stats next month. I'll make sure to write this stuff down ahead of time, so I'm not scrambling like I am right now. But yes, I'm not doing too badly on that one. The other challenge that I participated in, of course, was the Romance Readers Reading Group on Goodreads. Their challenge of the 10 books for the month, and 10 books. I did finish all 10. So I am now at 2 years and 3 months that I have done this in full, and I'm pretty pleased with myself. I do love that challenge so much. You guys know that if you watch my TBR videos. And the only other thing that started in March is I am participating for the next 12 weeks in the Pass the Parcel challenge. I can't remember what round it is. I want to say it's 13 or 14 at this point, but this is my 3rd time participating in this challenge, and you are put in a group of other people. You have to sign up in advance, and every week you are given a different prompt, but you don't know what that prompt is until Friday night. So I am participating in that one as well, and I've so far finished the first 2 books for March, so yay me. So yeah, so that's all my challenges. Other events and stuff, I don't go to events, I don't do anything like that. But over on Read Bliss, if you guys follow that channel, I will leave it linked in the description box below. I did have a video that came out in March. It was all about historical romance, and it was, I really enjoyed doing it, and I really like reading the books for it. So if you guys want to check that out, I will leave it linked in the description box below, so please do go check it out. So yeah, so that's kind of all of the March happenings, I guess you would say. For my 40 Years of Harlequin project, I am still, I'm keeping up with it, and I'm very proud of myself for that, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But let's get on now to talk about the 5 books, my top 5 books of the month. So coming in at number 1, I am going to go from, like, you know, best to, you know, favorite to not as most favorite. I don't want to say that. These are my top 5 books. So coming in first place is Colorado Cowboy by Sarah Richardson. Guys, I love this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. This was a NetGalley read. This one is about a female barrel racer and a local sheriff, and the two of them finding romance in a small town. And it is also about family and the importance of family, and I totally encourage you guys to go and read it. I believe it's the 5th in a series, but you do not need to read the series in order. I absolutely loved it. Please, please do yourself a favor and go and read this book. Next up, American Princess by Stephanie Marie Thornton. This was a historical fiction novel that I adored. It was about it's the fictionalization of the life of Alice Roosevelt, who is the daughter of Theodore Roosevelt. And I fell in love with her. I thought she was so spunky and so awesome. And if we were the same age at the same time, and I actually would have, been in the same social circle, if all those stars collided and I got to hang out with her, I think we would have been friends because she was pretty awesome. This was a lot of fun. If you're into a president's or presidential history, I highly encourage you to read this book. It was really well written and a lot of fun. The next one was Love Lessons by Heidi Cullen. This one is my very first LGBT contemporary romance, and it was about two guys who meet in college. They are roommates, and the one guy is a freshman, the other guy is an upperclassman, and it was adorable. This story was the sweetest, most adorable story. I loved it so much. There is quite a bit of adult content in this book, but it doesn't take at all away from the story. It was tastefully done. It was well done. I loved both Walter and Callie, our two main characters. And yeah, this one was such a joy to read. I read this one for Romanceopoly, for the LGBT lane, I think it was, which is where you had to read a new adult LGBT romance. And this one I got on Audible. I listened to it on audio, and the narration on it was brilliant. It was so, so well done. I highly encourage you to read this one. It was really enjoyable. Next up, Midnight at the Wandering Vineyard by Jamie Raintree. This one, all the other books other than Colorado Cowboy got 4 stars. I can make fingers. 4 stars. This one was another NetGalley read, and this was about a woman who left her small town and the vineyard that she grew up on, and went to the big city and got her degree, and now she's back for planting season, and she is meeting back up again with her best friend that they had a falling out the year between high school and college over a boy, and that boy, who's now a man, is of course also back in the picture. So this is very much as it is a romance, it is also a story of friendship and forgiveness, and the cover on this book is stunning. This book was absolutely fantastic, and I totally recommend it. And last but not least, Murder Once Removed by S.C. Perkins. This was a cozy mystery novel, and I loved the premise of this one. It's about a woman who is a genealogist. So she will track down your family tree, and that is her job. And in this book, not only is she investigating a murder that is happening in present day, but she's investigating a murder that happened in the past. So enjoyable, so different from most cozy mysteries that you would read, and I loved it. And I have to admit, you guys know I'm a cat person. One of my favorite things is that in this book, there's a cat who lives in her apartment complex, and his name is Neil Patrick Housecat, which I just love. I just thought that was such a great cat name. But yeah, highly enjoyable. So it was funny when I put that little list together of those top 5 books. 4 out of the 5 of them were all NetGalley reads. They were all books that have just been published very recently, and they were some of my favorites. So that's kind of fun to realize that as you're putting these lists together. So anyway, guys, that is all that I have for this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below what your favorite book that you read in March was, and if any of these books that I mentioned that were in my top 5, if you are going to be picking them up to read as well. And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.